guest. Her name is Michaele Sue Goldblatt. She is a social worker. She is an expert in child welfare, has gotten into the insurance industry through the funeral industry, actually. And she runs WE, which is Women's Entrepreneurs Incorporated, a networking group for women, and she'll tell you more about that very, very unique story. Guys, round of applause, please. Warm welcome for Michaele Sue Goldblatt.
Michaele Sue through one of my colleagues who I work with, and she was raving about this lady who's got a big heart and who does a lot of great things. And so she told me a bit of the story. I said, you know what, we'd love to have her as part of the night. So here we are.
Thank you.
Yeah. So Michaele Sue, tell us a little bit about your story.
You know, it's interesting thinking about it and thinking about overcoming obstacles. The reality is I feel I've had to reinvent myself. I don't know, maybe 8 times, particularly in the last 15 or 20 years. So as Michaele said, I'm a social worker by profession, and that's part of who I am and everything I do. Okay, I can't erase it from me. It's integral to me. And I worked as a social worker for many years in child welfare. I ran an adoption agency. I was very successful in terms of working with families, working with people. I felt great about myself, loved my work. I think I had a really good life. Life happened. I ended up moving to British Columbia with my husband, essentially to save a failing marriage. Didn't really work. The marriage ended. I was in British Columbia. I was in a place where I was not able to work in my own field in an ethical or legal manner. I could have worked, but not in the way that I would have. I had 3 young children. It was a really, really tough time in my life. And I wasn't able to leave in the sense that my former husband said to me, sure, you can leave. You just can't take the kids. Okay, so hello. I mean, I stayed. It was very difficult. I was unemployable. I applied for 197 social work jobs in the province of British Columbia, and I'm sort of a little bit sad to say that I still have all those letters in a filing cabinet. I haven't been able to let go of them. Mm-hmm. And of those 197 jobs I applied for, I was interviewed for 2. I was overqualified for almost all of them. There were 10 jobs I would have killed for. Child, Youth and Family Advocate of the province, Ombudsman for Children in the province, the head of the Cancer Society, things like that, which were fabulous jobs. I was qualified. In every case, I always made it to the short list. Okay? But then in the short list, you know, the people making the decisions might have 10 candidates in front of them. All were excellent candidates, all had fabulous resumes. Yet they had sat on the board with this one. They had worked with that person on a committee. They knew that person from his or her work in another area. It's not nepotism. It's just knowing somebody. I was an unknown, okay? I had a great resume. I had phenomenal letters of reference. I had made all the cuts. So it was a really tough time in my life. Right. One particular weekend, I essentially applied for every job in the newspaper, in the Vancouver Sun, other than working as a clerical person in a hospital or social service agency that I was capable of running. Okay. Okay, so I applied for everything. Mm-hmm. 2 places called me. One was a cemetery. I went. I had 2 interviews. I found it fascinating. Okay, started in that work, and I loved it. I really loved it because I was working with families. And I found, even though one might say adoption to death, hello, they're all about the same thing. They're about relationships with people. Okay. Okay. Anyway, life happened a little more. I was able to come back to Toronto with my children, thank goodness. I had already been out of the adoption field for a long time. I ended up working in a funeral home in Toronto, where what I specialized was in what's called pre-need, or arranging funerals for people, thank goodness, well in advance. The vehicle that was used was an insurance policy. Several of the insurance companies came to me and said, why don't you get your license? Right. Okay, I did. So now there is an ending to this. It does get to we. About 18 months ago, I was thinking, how can I market my services, my insurance services, to people? it's hard to get out there, especially, as I said, reinventing myself. It wasn't like I had 30 years of history in that field. I was new to that field. I was sitting with Zakaria, my friend, and we said, you know what, maybe we should target a group of women.
Okay.
We sent out invitations to 30 women. Our first meeting was in my loft in the West End of Toronto.
What kind of response did you get?
15 came. It was fabulous. We had another meeting and another meeting. By the third meeting, once a month, I said, oh my God, this is something, we're on to something.
Mm-hmm.
So we founded a group called WE, W-E, Women Entrepreneurs, Inc. Our mailing list has grown to 280 women.
Wow, that's good stuff. And
The thing that's so terrific about it is that it's not just a networking event. It is a support and networking group.
well, one of the things that I've seen when you go to a lot of motivational types, how many people have been to motivational sessions before? Okay, and usually you get the sugar rush, you go, and it's all great, particularly if it's a weekend intensive, but there's very little ongoing support. What you mentioned is a key. You need ongoing support. You need a support structure, people who are there for you, can back you up, who you can vibe off of, something that's critical, because a lot of times we're inundated with negatives, right? Right or right? Okay, so what we're doing is, thank you. So the idea is that with what you're doing with the women, I think it's amazing, and I think the people in general should just do it regardless. I mean, just be there for one another, support one another. So I think that's awesome.
It's interesting what you say. I've had quite a number of men come to me and say, can you run the same kind of group? How we're different is typically anywhere from, say, 10 to 28 women come to a meeting, not all 280. And if we ever had a response of 280, I would break it up because it's too big. What we do is we take time where each person has an opportunity to speak for a minute about herself and her business. And then at each meeting, we have 2 women who get a 10-minute spotlight. So they can do whatever they want with that time. They can talk about their service. If it's a woman just starting out in business, she can say, these are my ideas, give me some help. And we workshop it, and people give feedback. And I must say, I think I don't know, if I say 18 months, I guess we've had 18 meetings. They've been phenomenal. Even meetings where there have only been a handful of people, or meetings where we've had 28 or 30. Some of the women in the group are here tonight. It's magical. Something happens. People connect. Business gets done. Referrals are made. And it's an amazing, every single time. And of course, all of that gives it its own energy. It just keeps feeding off itself in the most positive way.
That's awesome. Y'all think that's a good service? I think that's awesome. Well, look, we have 1 minute left. Just if you can say, what would you say? What's your next goal as an organization? What would you say that is the benchmark for you?
Well, I'm happy to say that my first professional newsletter is going out Monday afternoon. Up until now, it's been me writing the newsletters, and although I do a pretty good job, I've gone to the next level. We have a website. My goal is to grow women entrepreneurs, so that there's more of us meeting and helping each other, and seeing where we go with it. I would like to invite all the women here. You're all welcome to come to a WE meeting. It's only, normally it's $10 for members, $20 for guests. I'm happy to say, for anybody who comes through you, Noel, and comes from this evening, I'm happy to give a $5 off. As you can see, at $10 and $20, the fee for the meetings is just to cover the cost. And any of the men here who have women, friends, girlfriends, wives, sisters, mothers in their lives, who they'd think might benefit from such a group, please sign up, let me know, and I'll be happy to include them too.
Awesome. All right, let's give Michael Sue a round of applause, y'all. Thank you so much for coming out.